It's so fluffy. Oh my god. Hey guys, I'm Brenda. I'm a tasty producer, and today we will be comparing American versus Japanese cheesecakes. Now, I'll be taking care of the classic creamy cheesecake that you guys all know really well.
And I'm Alvin, and I'll be making the jiggly Japanese cheesecake because I think it's such a unique twist on cheesecake that you've probably seen online, and it's so cool. I'm gonna show you exactly how it's done.
Okay, let's start this American cheesecake. So to make the base, you get your graham crackers and you smash until they turn into this. The reason why I began with the crust is that it has to be baked twice, once by itself and then with the cheesecake mix. So while this is baking, you can just go ahead and get started with your cheesecake mix. I'm not throwing all my ingredients at once. What I'm actually doing is starting with the sugar and the cream cheese. I also have all my ingredients at room temperature. All of this will make it easier to avoid lumps and will help me combine everything perfectly. Let's go back in time to this recipe Alvin filmed before, which happens to be the one that inspired my recipe. Look at the way it comes in. The texture that it appears to have is just beautiful.
Let's cook this Japanese cheesecake. So the process is very different than a traditional cheesecake. This starts with making a liquid cheesecake mixture of cream cheese, milk, butter, and sugar. And once that gets all nice and smooth, that gets folded into egg yolks. And that becomes this sort of like creamy, liquidish kind of batter. And that's sort of your cheesecake base. When I went to Japan to work with the Tasty Japan team, we had our eyes set on this jiggly cheesecake that had been like a viral trend around there for a really long time. It was just as amazing as it looked. It's a very light, fluffy, soft cheesecake that's very airy. It's like a cloud. So it's like almost you're making a meringue and then you sort of fold the meringue back into that cheesecake batter. The funny thing is that you could eat the entire cheesecake because 80% of this is air. When we were in Japan, it was not uncommon to see someone buying a whole cheesecake for themselves and finishing it on their walk to work. You need to bake it in a water bath. So what that does creates like a nice steam barrier around the cake, so the cake will never get too hot because the water will take excess heat away from it.
This is one of my favorite parts, Alvin, because you're pretty much unveiling this mythical creature. It looks super impressive. You know it's gonna be very fluffy.
You know those Tempur-Pedic commercials? This was like memory foam for my hands almost.
Let's taste it.
Let's do it.
All right.
Cheesecake right here. It's creamy. It melts. It's not too dense.
Your cheesecake, at least in my opinion, in terms of texture, is superb. This thing is super fluffy. Which one's your winner and why?
It would probably be the Japanese one. When I want something in a dessert, I want something that isn't too heavy so I can take more than one bite.
I'm gonna go for the Japanese version. Yes, this is easier to make, but it seems a little more adventurous to go for this one. And the texture, the fluffiness, and the jiggling is just like out of this world.
Yes.
In a taste test, 1 out of 3 said that they would go for your cheesecake. I asked people on Instagram, right there, 69% on yours.
31% on this one. So
There you
the
go.
crowd and the internet have spoken. Brenda, that's raw egg.
It's still delicious.
Okay.